नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयं उदीरयेत् श्रीन्वतां स्वकथा कृष्णा पुण्यश्रवणकीर्तनः हृदयान्तस्थो हि अभद्राणि विदुनोति सुहृत्सतं नष्टप्रायेषु अभद्रेषु नित्यं भागवत सेवये भगवते उत्तमश्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्टिकी. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining for this morning Bhagavatam session at 5:40 a.m. We'll be covering today chapter 30 from Canto 3, description by Lord Kapila of adverse fruitive activities. So we have completed all the verse reading until yesterday. Today we will be, I'll be going through the summary of this chapter. So Mother Dehuti asked Lord Kapila, 7 questions. The first question she asked about, dispelling the illusion of Aham Mameti, explain about Jiva and Prakriti. And second question she asked about what kind of bhakti will help so to easily attain you. And the third and fourth question she asked about explain Jnana, Yoga and its limbs. And fifth question she asked about explain the details of path of bhakti, which is the root cause of the knowledge of Sankhya and ultimate end of philosophical systems. And in question 6, she asked about describe the nature of time, fearing which people perform the pious acts. And last question she asked about what describe about the process of birth and death and of the jivas, and hearing which one becomes detached. So answering the last question, question 7, um, what is the process of birth and death of a jiva. So I think this chapter 30, Lord Kapila started describing adverse fruitive activities. So, and all this chapter has been grouped into two sections. First 18 verses talks about life and death of a materialist in this material world, and the remaining verses from 19 to 34 talks about the post-death experience. So the first verse and first few verses, first verse and second and third verses talks about power of the time. So in the first verse it says that everything is destroys that he acquired, leading to the lamentation. So materialist doesn't know that power of time by which he is carried away. So just as the clouds do not know the power of wind. In the second verse is talking about time destroys everything. Whatever one accumulates, one earns in this material world, day in and day out, ends with a great pain, and so-called happiness ends at the time at the time of the death. It destroys everything. So that is the reason third was take out of ignorance only material person or this jiva thinks that everything is permanent. Whatever he has acquired, from since the day he born to the death, he thinks it's permanent. But at the time of death, everything goes away. He does not carry anything with him other than his relationship with Krishna or whatever sinful activities or pious stuff he has done. So here Prabhupada mentioned that the materialists think that persons engaged in Krishna consciousness are crazy fellows wasting time by chanting Hare Krishna. But actually, he does not know about himself in the darkest region of craziness because of accepting his body as a permanent. So, and in relation to his body, he accepts his income, country, society, and all other paraphernalia as a permanent. So I think this is what, we are under illusion. This is what, because of the Maya we are in. And in the fourth and fifth, sixth verses talk about satisfaction. The living entity, whichever species he appears, he finds particular type of satisfaction. Maya has, in the purport Prabhupada mentions about Maya has two phases of activities. One is called Prakshepatmika and other is called Avarnatmika. So Avarnatmika means covering, Prakshepatmika means pulling down. So Maya has two potencies with which to execute her two functions. With prakshepatmika shakti, the power to throw the living entity into the ocean of material existence. Whereas avaranatmika shakti, the power to cover the knowledge of the living entity. And the fifth verse talks about attachment to the body. Whatever we do in this world, we are attached to that. Conditioned living entity is satisfied with his own particular species of life. Prabhupada give a very good example, and in the purport, how Lord Indra, king of heaven, was cursed by spiritual master Bruhaspati. He took a hawk's life, and he has a hawk's family and hawk's kids, and he was very happy with that world, and he doesn't want to go back. Narada Muni came and asked him to come back to his heavenly kingdom, but he was like, I am happy here. So that is the illusion of Maya, and Maya, because of our conditioned life, and we are attached to this, whatever body we take, we are attached to that, and we think whatever happiness get out of it is a real happiness. And what happens with that attachment to the body? One has a deep root attraction for the body, wife, income, and whatever he has acquired in this life. And then continuing on this next thing is about sinful acts. If do all kind of mischievous activities, sinful activities, with the hope that all his desires will be fulfilled, he's happy, and he makes his family and wife and everything happy. But so in this age of Kali Yuga, our influence is so strong that everyone is harassed, and it's full of anxiety because of accepting the false presentation of Maya's family. So in the 8th verse talks about his impetus for the family life. He gives his heart to and senses to a woman. He falsely charms him with Maya. He enjoys the solitary embraces and talking with her, and he is enchanted by the sweet words of that small children. That's how he's impetus for family life, and he tried to find happiness with counteracting the miseries. He remains in the family life, which is full of diplomacy and politics. He can successfully counteract the miseries, and he thinks he's happy. Everyday life, we go through some issues, we handle them, and then we think that, okay, we are happy today, and then next day start with another problem. So that's how our life keep on going on. And Jiva likes to secure the money by doing some violence or some other sinful activities, or whatever he can do to make for the living. But does it really gives ultimate happiness? No. But is he at least successful in maintaining them? Answer is no. So it's always a struggle. It's always another day with another problem. And the 11th and 12th verses talks about when one cannot have a good occupation or easy way to good way to make money with a proper living, and he will commit being a thief, or he steals the money and he earns money by other means, which is not a proper way of making money for the living. So as he is unsuccessful in maintaining his family members, so he is bereft of all the wealth and beauty. He always thinks of his failure in this life. He has not done anything good. He has not satisfied anything, or he's done live the good life. So he's grieving for in this rest of his life. And what happens then, as he's not able to support his family or his wife and others, they start not treating them the way they treated them when everything was going fine, when he was making money and bringing all the stuff for the family. So he lost his respect. So he's end up being disrespected by his own family members. Then the old age comes with all these things. Old age and disease always one has to go through in this life, in this cycle of birth and death. And in the next verse talks about, thus he remains at home, he cannot do anything, he's at mercy of his family or his caretaker or his guardian. So he just be like a pet dog and eat whatever they give it to him, whatever mercy their family or their caretaker show at him. That's how he end up his life. And the next verses talk about as he become old, he become in a decision condition, and he coughs and breathes with difficulty, and at the final stage of life, he comes under the clutches of Maya, clutches of death. So every jiva has to end his life with the death, which is very, very fearful. It says in Shastras that at the time of death, the pain would be like, how it will be if thousands of scorpions bite the person. Uh, that much pain one has to take at the time of the death. And even he finally dies in the grief, most pathetically, in the greatest pain, without consciousness, because at the end of life, even when we are sick, we don't even feel like chanting, or we don't have a time for chanting, or we don't have a taste for chanting. And if we are severe pain and a severe diseased condition, and it's not at all easy to remember the Krishna or Lord's name or pastimes at the time of the death. So that's how he ends his life miserably. And what happens next? The verse to rest of the verses talks about post-death experience. What happens at the time of death and what happens after the death. So the messengers of the Lord of the death, Yamadutas, at the time of death, one sees the Yamadutas comes before him, and their eyes are full of wrath, and in great fear he passes stool and urine, and they are here to take him to the hell. And his experience on the way hell is described in the next 3-4 verses. He's being dragged, and with his neck with a strong rope, and he has been threatened. His heart is broken with the heart threats, and trembles, and bitten by the dogs on the path to the hell. And also he's whipped in the verse 23. He's whipped, afflicted by hunger and thirst. He has to pass a long roads of hot and with forest fires on both sides. So that's how he's not given any time, but he may be rest a little bit. But again, it's a painful path. He's being whipped and threatened and dragged, and also he's forced. So he falls down in fatigue sometimes, and still thus he is being brought to the presence of Yamaraja. And it says that he is punished, and he has to pass 99,000 yojanas within 2 or 3 muhurtas, and he finally received the punishment he destined to suffer. So depend upon the sinful activities one does in this life, and he has been given the punishment accordingly. So we also see in the criminal code, or in the police system here, based on the offenses, court will give the different kind of punishments. And in the verses 25 to 28 talks about what would be the experience in the hell. And his son, he says that he has been placed in the midst of burning pieces of wood, and his limbs are set on fire. Sometimes he has been made to eat his own flesh, and he has been tortured, while he's still alive. See, the thing is, he will get a yatana body. So that body is suitable for facilitating all this suffering. So it is like all this punishment, one doesn't die, but whole purpose is he should not die. At the same time, he should have a body to suffer. See how worse it can be. It's unimaginable, even though we are just reading all these things, but I don't think we really don't get it. That makes us to be remember Krishna all the times. So he's been tortured when he's still alive. He's pulled out by dogs and vultures. He's being tortured by bites of serpents, scorpions, etc. And he has been lopped off and hurled. And because of their sinful association with the men and women, they experience many kinds of miserable conditions. And in the hells known as Tamishra, Andha Tamishra, and Raura, these are the different hells. The married person who had a sinful association with the opposite sex will end up being punished. And Prabhupada also mentioned that even in this planet, even in this world, we also see experience of hell or heaven, because But whatever happens in this material world is too little, and but the whatever is in this hellish condition will be, millions of times higher than what one can experience. Think of the punishment one goes through in this world. And also in the last few verses describes about who goes to the hell. First two verses talks about sinful maintenance. Who maintain himself and family members by sinful activities is the one kind of person who goes to the hellish life. And not only he goes to the hellish life, but his relatives also suffer by doing it, because of him, or association of him. And the verse 32-33 talks about Tamishra, by the arrangement of Lord or karma, one who maintains his family by sinful means suffers in the hell called Tamishra. So I think in the 5th canto there will be a more description on different type of hellish planets and much more details on that canto. But here they just give a little bit of information. And also Chanakya Pandita says that we cannot take anything with us end of the life, and all this thing is asat. Sat is only sent for the purpose of Lord. So whatever we earn, whatever we acquire in this life, we have to give it to Krishna. Or whatever we earn, we have to do in a good means, and we offer everything to Krishna. And there was some article I read recently. There is one beggar in one of the parts of India. She accumulated almost 50 lakhs of money over the time, and now she's donating all that money to Ayodhya temple or some good cause. And it's not easy, as we read, but it's not easy for us to think that whatever we earn is belongs to Krishna, and giving it to Krishna, or for for the services of Krishna or other things. It's not easy. I think it's with sadhana and with detachment, with our practice, we can understand we are not permanent here. Whatever we make is only Krishna's thing. It's like just like a cashier. Whatever money he sees, it's not his money, but same thing. Whatever we acquired in this world, whatever opulence or money or other facilities we have, we just use it for serving the Lord. You just use it for maintaining our life and conducting Krishna conscious life, not for our own sense pleasure or other enjoyment, because nothing stays with us, and we have to serve everything back to Krishna. That is the only way we can come out of this life and birth cycle. And at the last verse talks about, so one has to go through all these things, beginning to be a materialist, makes money, brings the family, and then they may not take care of him well, and he will have a diseased condition. He goes to the a lot of suffering at the end of the life, and he will die because of his past activities. He has to have a bad death, and he has to go through the hellish planets. He has to suffer on the way to hellish planets. And once all his suffering has been taken place, I don't know how much time it takes, and again, and he will be reborn. So after going through all this miserable hellish condition, then many births in these lower forms of species, he becomes purified, then reborn as a human being. So that's what Prabhupada says. This human form of the life is the most fortunate and most important life one can have in this 18.4 million species of life. Prabhupada asks us to give this one life to Krishna. So I think we should give this one life to Krishna, chant attentively as ABCDs of Bhakti. We have to have association, B for books, C for chanting, D for diet, and also DT worship. And with all this, following the ABCDs in the life of the life with body, mind, and works, or body, mind, and words, we wish that with the mercy of Guru and Krishna and Prabhupada, we will go back to Godhead, or at least we'll have a better life next year serving as a devotee in a much more purified form. With that, I can conclude today's session. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.